13 years. That's how long I was married to Olivia before everything fell apart. Looking back now, I can pinpoint the exact moment when things started to change, though I was too blind to see it then. It was the day she came home from her first night shift, practically glowing with excitement. "Brian, you won't believe how different everything is at night." She twirled around our kitchen, still in her scrubs, her long dark hair escaping from its usual neat bun. The energy, the pace, it's exactly what I've been looking for. I remember smiling at her enthusiasm while sipping my morning coffee. "That good, huh? And here I thought you'd be exhausted." "Oh, I am," she laughed. That musical sound I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. "But it's a good kind of tired. You know Dr. Evans from day shift? Total different person at night. Everyone is. It's like a whole different world." I should have noticed how her eyes sparkled when she mentioned that name. Should have paid attention to the way her cheeks flushed. But I was focused on my own world. The construction company I'd built from the ground up, the contracts we were negotiating, the deadlines looming over my head. "Come to bed," I said, reaching for her hand. "You need rest." She pulled away, still buzzing with energy. "I need a shower first. God, I probably smell like hospital." That was another thing I missed. She'd never cared about hospital smell before. For 13 years, she'd come home and fall right into bed with me, both of us knowing the antiseptic scent would fade by evening. The changes were subtle at first. New perfume, different shampoo. Matching underwear sets replaced her usual practical cotton. Small things that should have set off warning bells, but instead just made me feel lucky. My wife was taking care of herself, looking good, feeling confident. What husband would complain about that? "You're home late," I commented one morning, 3 months into her night shift rotation. She was usually home by 7:30 a.m., but it was pushing 9. "Emergency came in right at shift change," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Multiple trauma. Couldn't leave the team shorthanded." "You could have texted." "I was busy saving lives, Brian." There was an edge to her voice I'd never heard before. "Sometimes I can't stop to check in every 5 minutes." "Every 5 minutes? Liv, I haven't heard from you since yesterday evening." She sighed, running her fingers through her hair. A nervous habit she'd had since college. "I'm sorry, okay? I'm exhausted. Can we not do this now?" "Do what?" "I'm just asking about your night." "No, you're interrogating me. Like I'm some teenager missing curfew instead of your wife of 13 years. The words hung between us, heavy with something I couldn't quite identify. Pride? Resentment? "Liv, I'm going to shower." Another shower. Another closed door between us. Another morning of me staring at my coffee, trying to convince myself everything was fine. But then came the phone calls. Always stepping out of the room to answer. Always speaking in hushed tones. Always just work stuff when I asked, "Who keeps calling?" I finally asked one evening, as she prepared for another night shift. She was focused on applying mascara, something she'd started doing regularly before work. "Since when did ER nurses need mascara?" "The calls, Liv. The ones you keep taking in the other room." She capped the mascara, turning to face me with an expression of practiced patience. "It's usually Dr. Evans coordinating staff coverage. You know how crazy the ER can get. And he has to call you directly? Isn't there a charge nurse for that?" "He trusts my judgment." She started gathering her things, movements quick and efficient. "And yes, he has to call directly sometimes. That's how emergency medicine works, Brian. Things happen fast. We need to make quick decisions." "We." The word tasted bitter. She paused at the door, her hand on the knob. For a moment, I thought I saw something, guilt, fear, flash across her face. But then she smiled, and it was gone. "Don't wait up," she said, like she did every night now. As if I could sleep anyway, lying there alone, wondering why her new perfume made her smell like a stranger. A few nights later, I was having drinks with my best friend, Mark. I needed to talk to someone before I drove myself crazy. "I don't know, man," I said, staring into my beer. "Am I being paranoid?" Mark shifted uncomfortably. "What exactly are you asking me?" "About Olivia. The changes. The late nights. The phone calls. I gestured vaguely. "Everything." Look, Mark leaned forward, lowering his voice. You want me to be honest? Would I be asking if I didn't? He sighed, looking older than his 40 years. Karen noticed it too. My stomach dropped. If Mark's wife had noticed something was off. Noticed what? Little things. At Amy's birthday party last month, Olivia kept checking her phone, smiling at texts. Karen said. He hesitated. Said what? Said she had that look. You know the one. Like teenagers get when they're. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. I knew exactly what he meant, and it made me feel sick. She's working with this doctor. I found myself saying, Evans. She talks about him like he's God's gift to emergency medicine. Mark was quiet for a long moment. Then, carefully, have you thought about stopping by the hospital? Surprising her with coffee or something? I hadn't. 13 years of marriage, and I'd never once thought about checking up on my wife at work. The fact that I was considering it now felt like admission of something I wasn't ready to face. But that night, lying alone in our bed, smelling her new perfume on her pillow, I made a decision. The next night, I would visit the ER. Just to bring her coffee. Just to say hello. Just to prove to myself that I was being paranoid. I had no idea how much that decision would change everything. I sat in my car outside the hospital for 20 minutes, feeling like a stranger in my own life. The coffee carrier on my passenger seat held 2 cups, one for Olivia, one for me. A pathetic excuse to show up at 2 a.m. Just checking on my wife, I muttered to myself, gripping the steering wheel. Nothing weird about that. The ER entrance was bright and busy. I'd been here before, but never at night. Never as the suspicious husband. The receptionist smiled professionally. Can I help you? I'm looking for Olivia Mitchell. I'm her husband. Brought her some coffee. Something flickered across her face. Recognition? Pity? Oh, Mrs. Mitchell is, let me check. She tapped at her computer. She's probably in the break room. Through those doors, turn left. I followed her directions, the coffee cups growing warm in my hands. The break room door was closed. As I reached for it, I heard laughter, Olivia's laugh, but different, intimate. Then a male voice, too low to make out words. My hand froze on the handle. Part of me wanted to burst in, but another part needed to hear more. Alex, stop. Olivia's voice, playful. Someone could walk in. Let them. Dr. Evans, I presumed. Everyone knows anyway. My blood turned to ice. They do not. She sounded scandalized, but not angry. Not nearly angry enough. Come on, Liv. The way you look at me? The way I look at you? We're not exactly subtle. I'm married. And I'm separated. Has been for 6 months. You know this isn't just some fling for me. Alex, come here. The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. The coffee slipped from my hands, splashing across my shoes. The sound must have carried because suddenly the break room door opened. Olivia stood there, her hair messed up, lipstick slightly smeared. Behind her, a tall man with salt and pepper hair was adjusting his white coat. Brian. Her face went pale. What are you doing here? Brought you coffee. I looked down at the spilled drinks. Guess I dropped it. Dr. Evans? Alex stepped forward, hand extended. Dr. Alex Evans. You must be Brian. Olivia's told me so much about you. I stared at his hand until he lowered it. Brian, Olivia started. This isn't what it looks like. I laughed, a harsh sound I barely recognized. Really? That's what you're going with? Let's talk about this at home. Oh, now you want to talk at home? Funny, you haven't wanted to talk much lately. Too busy with your phone calls and emergency consults. Alex moved closer to Olivia. Protective. Like he had any right. Maybe we should all calm down. Don't. I pointed at him. Just don't. A nurse appeared in the hallway, drawn by the commotion. Everything okay here? Fine, Olivia said quickly. Brian, please. Go home. We'll talk when my shift ends. When your shift ends. So you can shower first? Wash his smell off. Sir, the nurse stepped closer. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I looked at Olivia, really looked at her. She wasn't even crying. Just standing there, looking annoyed. Like I was embarrassing her. 13 years, I said quietly. 13 fucking years, Liv. She flinched at that. Finally, some reaction. I turned and walked away, their voices calling after me. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. It's not what you think. Please don't do anything rash. We need to talk about this calmly. Another buzz. I still love you. This is complicated. I turned the phone off and drove to Mark's house. It was almost 3 a.m., but I couldn't go home. Couldn't face our empty bed. Mark answered on the third knock, took one look at my face, and stepped aside. Come in, brother. I was right, I said, collapsing onto his couch. About everything. He disappeared into the kitchen, returned with 2 glasses and a bottle of whiskey. Tell me. I told him everything. The break room, the conversation I overheard, Dr. Perfect with his salt and pepper hair and separated status. What are you going to do? He asked when I finished. I don't know. I stared into my glass. Kill him? Brian. I'm not going to kill him, but I want to. God, I want to. Karen appeared in her robe, face full of concern. She sat next to me, took my hand. Have you called your sister? I shook my head. Rachel lived in Boston, but she'd fly out immediately if I told her. Part of me wanted that. Wanted my fierce older sister to help me tear Olivia's world apart. Not yet. I need to think. You need to sleep, Karen said firmly. The guest room's made up. Stay here tonight. She's still texting me. I pulled out my phone, turned it on. 5 more messages. Don't read them, Mark advised. Not tonight. Tonight you sleep. Tomorrow we figure out next steps. Next steps, I repeated. Like this was a business problem. Like my wife hadn't just destroyed 13 years of marriage in the hospital break room. I lay in Mark's guest room, staring at the ceiling, remembering all the nights Olivia came home late. All the showers. All the lies. Everyone knows anyway, he'd said. Everyone but me. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Rachel. Mark called. I'm on the next flight. Don't do anything stupid until I get there. Love you, little brother. I closed my eyes, grief warring with rage. Tomorrow, I decided. Tomorrow I'd start figuring out exactly how to make them both regret every secret touch, every hidden smile, every moment they thought they were getting away with it. But first, I had to survive tonight. I was sitting at our kitchen table when Olivia came home. 8:30 in the morning, an hour later than her shift ended. Rachel sat beside me, her flight having landed at 6. Her presence was the only thing keeping me from completely losing it. The door opened slowly. Olivia stepped in, still in her scrubs. She froze when she saw Rachel. Oh, she said softly. I didn't expect. Clearly, Rachel's voice could have frozen hell. Sit down, Olivia. I need to shower. You need to sit your ass down, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. Now. She sat, hands folded in her lap like a schoolgirl called to the principal's office. Brian, about last night. How long? She blinked. What? Don't play dumb. How long? Her eyes darted to Rachel, then back to me. 3 months. Since he started on nights. 3 months. A quarter of a year. 90 nights of lies. Did you f*** him in the hospital? Brian. She looked scandalized. Answer the question. She stood up abruptly. I don't have to do this. Not with an audience. Rachel didn't move, but her voice could have cut glass. Sit down, Olivia. You're going to answer every question my brother has. After 13 years, you owe him that much. Olivia sat, tears finally starting. It wasn't, we didn't plan this. No. I pulled out my phone, played the recording I'd made in the break room. Her laughter. His voice. Their moment. She went pale. You recorded us? Answer the question, Liv. Did you f*** him in the hospital? A tear rolled down her cheek. Once. In his office. I'm so sorry. Jesus Christ. Rachel muttered. It just happened. He was there, understanding, listening, and I wasn't? My fist hit the table. I wasn't understanding, wasn't listening. You were busy. Always with work. Always with contracts. I was building a life for us. The silence after my shout was deafening. Is he better in bed? The question came out before I could stop it. Does he make you feel young? Special? Is that worth throwing away 13 years? Don't do this, she whispered. Do what? Ask uncomfortable questions? Sorry if my pain is inconvenient for you. I never meant to hurt you. Rachel actually laughed at that. Really? That's what you're going with? The classic cheater's excuse? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I cut in. You got bored. Found someone exciting. Decided 13 years of marriage was worth less than 3 months of sneaking around with Dr. Perfect. It's not that simple. Then explain it to me. I was standing now, couldn't remember getting up. Explain how you could do this. Explain how you could look me in the eye every morning after being with him. She was crying freely now. I love him. The words hit like physical blows. Rachel reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Get out. Olivia blinked. What? Get out. Pack a bag and get out of my house. This is my house too. Not anymore. Not after this. She turned to Rachel, seeking support, but found none. I need time to pack, to think. You've had 3 months to think. Pack a bag. Now. Anything you leave, I'll have Rachel box up and send to your mother's. You can't just. He can, Rachel stood. And he will. I'll help you pack. 1 bag. 10 minutes. I walked out to the back porch while they went upstairs. Called Mark. She admitted it, I said when he answered. 3 months. Said she loves him. Shit, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. I watched a neighbor walking their dog, envying their normal morning. Hey, remember that client of yours? The divorce lawyer? I'll call her right now. You're at home? Yeah. Rachel's here. Good. Stay there. Karen and I are coming over. Don't do anything stupid. Too late for that. Should have seen it months ago. Olivia came out with her bag while I was still on the phone. Rachel behind her like a guard. Brian. She tried one last time. Please. We can talk about this. Go to counseling. Goodbye, Olivia. She stood there another moment, then walked to her car. I didn't watch her drive away. Rachel came and stood beside me. You okay? No. Want to talk about it? No. Want to get very, very drunk? I almost smiled. It's 9 in the morning. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. I'm staying at Alex's. When you're ready to talk calmly, call me. I never wanted to hurt you. I'm sorry it ended this way. I showed Rachel the text. Her face darkened. She's staying with him? Already? That's convenient. I finished. Yeah, almost like they planned it. Another text came through, this one from an unknown number. Brian, this is Alex. I know you're hurt and angry, but we should talk man to man. This situation is complicated. Rachel grabbed my phone before I could respond. Oh no. No, no, no. You are not engaging with him. Not now. Not until you talk to the lawyer. She was right. I knew she was right. But all I could think about was Olivia in his bed, in his house, moving on with her life while mine lay in ruins. Mark and Karen arrived 20 minutes later with coffee and bagels no one would eat. We sat in my kitchen now, not ours, and started making plans. First the lawyer, then the bank accounts, then I'd decide exactly how to handle Dr. Alex Evans and his complicated situation. 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal meetings and sleepless nights. Rachel stayed, working remotely from my guest room, watching me like I might break. Maybe I would. The lawyer, Sandra Mitchell, no relation, laid it out clearly in her office. The good news is, Virginia's a fault state for divorce. Adultery is grounds for immediate filing. The bad news? It can be hard to prove. I pulled out my phone. I have a recording of the act of them together, talking, admitting things. She nodded. That's a start. And she's living with him now? Moved in the same day I kicked her out. Sandra made notes. That helps us. Shows a pre-existing relationship. Any joint accounts? Froze them all the day after. Rachel's idea. Smart sister. She looked up. What do you want out of this, Brian? Everything, I said without hesitation. The house, the accounts, Every damn thing I worked for while she was... I stopped, breathing hard. Okay. She set down her pen. Here's what we're going to do. The plan was simple. Document everything, gather evidence, build a case that would leave Olivia with nothing but her scrubs and her precious doctor. But it wasn't enough. Not for me. I found something, Mark said over beers that night. About Dr. Perfect. What? He's not separated. He's very much married. And his wife? She's chief of surgery at Mercy General. I nearly choked on my beer. What? Karen did some digging. Social media, hospital newsletters. Dr. Alex and Dr. Diana Evans. 20 years married. 3 kids in private school. The room spun. He told Olivia he was separated. Yeah, well, his Christmas card from last month says otherwise. Family photo and everything. I pulled out my phone, started searching. There it was, hospital website, staff page. Dr. Diana Evans, chief of surgery, smiling professionally in her white coat. Beautiful woman, maybe 10 years older than Olivia. Does she know? Mark shook his head. Doubt it. Karen says they seem happy on Facebook. Lots of family photos, vacation pics. Something cold and calculated started forming in my mind. Get me her number. Brian. Her number, Mark. Please. He sighed, typed on his phone. A moment later, mine buzzed. I stared at the number for a long time before making the call. It went to voicemail. Dr. Evans, my name is Brian Mitchell. I need to speak with you about your husband, Alex. It's urgent. Please call me back. She called within an hour. Mr. Mitchell? This is Diana Evans. What's this about Alex? Her voice was warm, cultured. No idea her world was about to shatter. Dr. Evans, this is difficult. Are you somewhere private? Just finishing rounds. What's wrong? Is Alex hurt? The concern in her voice made me sick. No, he's not hurt. But you should know he's been having an affair. With my wife. For 3 months. Silence. Then, very quietly, I see. They're living together now. He told her he was separated. More silence. Then a short, harsh laugh. Separated? We just put a deposit down on a summer house. I'm sorry. I thought. You deserve to know. Yes. Her voice had changed, turned to steel. Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Would you be willing to meet? Compare notes? Of course. Tomorrow? Noon? There's a coffee shop across from Mercy. I'll be there. After we hung up, I called Rachel. I found out something about Alex. What? I told her everything. About Diana, the marriage, the lies. Holy shit, Rachel breathed. Does Olivia know? No, but she will. Brian, what are you planning? I thought about Diana's voice. That moment it changed from concern to cold fury. Justice, sis. Just justice. The next day, I sat across from Diana Evans. She was even more striking in person, tall, elegant, radiating authority. She brought photos, bank statements, everything I might need. Joint accounts, she said, sliding them across the table. The summer house deposit. Family vacation planned for June. Her smile was terrible. He's been a very busy man, hasn't he? Living with your wife while helping me plan our 20th anniversary party. I'm sorry, I said again. Don't be. You didn't betray anyone. She leaned forward. Now, shall we discuss how to handle this? You have a plan? Oh, yes. She pulled out more papers. I'm chief of surgery. I sit on the board. And my husband, your wife's lover, is up for review next month. Tenure track position. Her smile widened. Would be a shame if something interfered with that. I felt an answering smile spread across my face. Dr. Evans, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Diana, please. She raised her coffee cup. To justice. To justice. Walking back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Diana would text later with details, times, documents needed. We'd each play our part. My phone buzzed Olivia again. Her 20th message this week. Brian, please. We need to talk. Alex and I. We want to do this right. Make it civilized. I laughed out loud in the parking lot. Civilized. Right. They had no idea what was coming. Diana's plan was perfect in its simplicity. The hospital board meeting where Alex's tenure review would take place was in 3 days. All we had to do was wait. Everything in place? I asked her over coffee. We'd made this our daily ritual. Oh yes. Her smile was razor-sharp. The board members have all received anonymous emails detailing his inappropriate workplace relationship with a subordinate nurse, complete with security camera screenshots of them entering his office after hours. How did you get those? Chief of Surgery has access to everything, darling. But that's just the appetizer. I couldn't help but admire her efficiency. In 2 weeks, she gathered more evidence than I had in months of suspicion. What about Olivia? I asked. Your wife. Diana sipped her coffee. She's been reassigned to day shift, effective immediately. Professional misconduct review pending. She must be losing her mind. Oh, she is. Called my office 3 times yesterday, trying to reach Alex. He's been in meetings all week. My phone buzzed. Olivia again. Something's wrong. Alex isn't answering my calls. His office says he's in meetings, but his car isn't at the hospital. Brian, if you're behind this somehow. I showed Diana the text. She laughed. If she only knew. Alex is actually at our lawyer's office, trying to explain why half our assets disappeared last week. I raised an eyebrow. What? I was busy too. She shrugged elegantly. Amazing what you can do with power of attorney and 20 years of trust. The day of the board meeting dawned bright and clear. I sat in my lawyer's office, waiting. Are you sure about this? Sandra asked. Once we file these papers. I'm sure. She nodded and made the call. Perfect timing was everything. At exactly 2 p.m., Alex Evans stood before the hospital board, Diana at his side playing the supportive wife, while he presented his case for tenure. At 2:15, as he discussed his vision for the ER's future, Diana's lawyer served him with divorce papers. Right there, in front of the entire board. At 2:17, my lawyer filed the adultery suit, naming him as correspondent. At 2:20, the board received an urgent email containing proof of his falsified research papers from his residency, Diana's masterstroke, discovered during her methodical destruction of his life. By 2:30, Alex Evans was no longer being considered for tenure. By 2:45, he was suspended pending investigation. I got the play-by-play from Diana via text. You should see his face. Priceless. Board members won't even look at him. Security is escorting him out. Then came Olivia's panicked call. What did you do? Brian, what the hell did you do? Me? Nothing. Might want to ask your boyfriend about his wife, though. His actual wife. Not the separation story he fed you. Silence. Then, what? Dr. Diana Evans? Chief of Surgery? Mother of his 3 kids? Any of this ringing a bell? You're lying. Google her. I'll wait. I heard furious typing, then a choked sound. Oh God. Yeah. Oh, and Liv? Check your email. Your day shift reassignment should be there, along with the professional misconduct review notice. You can't. They can't. They can. They did. Welcome to day shift, Nurse Mitchell. Enjoy working under Diana's supervision. I hung up as she started crying. Mark called an hour later. Karen just got back from the hospital. It's a bloodbath. Evans is done. Not just suspended. They're reviewing every case he's handled. Every paper he's published. Good. Olivia? Reassigned. Under review. Probably won't be fired, but her career at that hospital is effectively over. Damn, brother. He paused. Feel better? I thought about it. Getting there. Diana and I met for drinks that evening. She looked radiant, triumphant. To ruins, she raised her glass. And the bastards who brought it on themselves. They never saw it coming. No, she smiled. They were too busy thinking they were cleverer than us. Too busy thinking their love justified everything. My phone buzzed one last time. Alex, you've destroyed my career. I hope you're happy. I showed Diana. She took my phone, typed quickly. No, Alex. You destroyed your career, along with your marriage, your reputation, and your future. Sends from Brian's phone, and your wife. Well, soon-to-be ex-wife. P.S. I'm keeping the summer house. We laughed until we cried. There in that bar, two betrayed spouses who'd turned their pain into precision-guided missiles. What now? I asked as our laughter subsided. Diana's eyes sparkled. Now? Now we watch them burn. 6 months later, I sat across from my lawyer as she handed me the final divorce papers. Congratulations, Sandra said. You're officially divorced. I stared at the documents, remembering the day I married Olivia. Now it was just paper, ink, and legal terms. How's she doing? I asked, not sure why I cared. Transferred to a hospital in Richmond. Starting over, I guess. Sandra gathered her files. The judge's ruling was decisive. House is yours, accounts split heavily in your favor due to the adultery evidence. And Evans? Last I heard, working at an urgent care clinic in Maryland. His wife took him for everything. She paused. Speaking of Diana, how is she? I smiled. Diana and I had continued our coffee meetings long after the revenge was complete. Two wounded people helping each other heal. Good. Thriving. Actually, the board made her interim chief of medicine last month. Just interim? For now. She'll have the permanent position by Christmas. My phone buzzed. Diana herself. Celebration dinner? Just closed on the summer house. It's all mine. I texted back. Name the place. Sandra watched me, thoughtful. You two seem close. We understand each other. Just be careful. Revenge partnerships are tricky things. I nodded, but we both knew Diana and I were past revenge. Now we were just friends. Good friends who'd been through hell together. Later that night, over wine and steaks, Diana raised her glass. To freedom. To justice. To whatever comes next. She studied me. Have you thought about dating yet? I nearly choked on my wine. Diana. What? It's been 6 months. You're officially divorced as of today. I'm not ready. She nodded. I know. Neither am I. But someday. Someday. I agreed. My phone buzzed. Rachel checking in. Papers signed. All done. I'm a free man. Good. Coming to Boston soon? The guest room misses you. I smiled. My sister, still watching out for me. Diana saw the text. You should go. Change of scenery would be good. Maybe. I sipped my wine. What about you? Any vacation plans? Thinking about it. The summer house is lovely this time of year. She paused. It's too big for one person, though. Our eyes met across the table. Something unspoken passed between us. Diana. I'm not proposing anything, she said quickly. Just suggesting that neither of us should be alone with our thoughts too much. She was right. The nights were the hardest. Lying awake, remembering, wondering if I could have done something differently. One day at a time, I said. One day at a time, she agreed. Later that night, walking to my car, I got one last text. Olivia, I heard the papers were finalized. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you can forgive me someday. I stared at the message for a long time before deleting it without responding. Some bridges stay burned. The next morning, I woke up and realized something. I didn't immediately think of Olivia. For the first time in months, my first thought wasn't of betrayal or revenge or loss. I thought about coffee with Diana, about visiting Rachel in Boston, about the future. At work, Mark stopped by my office. You good? I considered the question. Getting there. Diana called Karen. Invited us to the summer house next weekend. I smiled. Yeah. Says we all need a fresh start. He studied me. She's right, you know. I know. And I did know. The revenge had been sweet, the justice complete. But now it was time for something else. Something more. That evening, I drove past the hospital, our old hospital. Olivia's car wasn't in the parking lot. Alex's space was occupied by someone else. Their world had moved on, and so had mine. I pulled out my phone. About that summer house invitation, room for one more? Diana's response came quickly. Always. Bring wine. I smiled, put the phone away, and drove home. Not to the house I'd shared with Olivia. I'd sold that last month. To my new place, my new life. The night shift was over. Time for a new day to begin.